before I get started in earnest, does anyone have any particular questions?
No.
All right, so this is Industry 101. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go from the very basic, just concentrating on T1 manufacturing and talk about how you build, where to build, what to build, what you might want to fly while you're building, some skills required, where to get supplies, where to sell, and I think I have a few other things too. So super basic right now, if you're in fleet, if you can go ahead and come over to Checkman's Pleasure Palace. We'll need to be there in a minute. You won't have to do any hauling for this class, so just come in what you are. And then go ahead and open the industry window. All right. So if you open your industry window and you go to facilities, which is the second tab from blueprints, you're going to see you want to make sure that the search is on all facilities, all activities, and current system. So this video is concentrating on the GEHAV headquarters manufacturing. So what this does is each facility, it tells you what it's bonus for. And so today what we're going to be doing is building frigates. So if you scroll over the little factory under Checkman's Pleasure Palace, you can see it has a pop-up and it tells you about structure role bonuses. And then if you scroll down on the type supported, you can see that there's a rig installed that gives bonuses to destroyers, drones, fighters, frigates, and shuttles. So if you're going to build something little, you want to build it here in Checkman's Pleasure Palace. Brave Port is better for battle cruisers, battleships, battle cruisers, combat battle cruisers, and just regular cruisers. So each structure you want to check, but I'll go over in brief. So PHEG is good for implants and drugs. Dunk's Crematorium is good for T2 invention. We're not going to get into T2 today. Checkman's Pirate Hut is good for T2 manufacturing. Dunk's Workshop is good for deployables, and it also has implants, but I think PHEG's is a little better, and modules. So if you're doing modules, Dunk's Workshop is the best. So if you build in the best, you're going to get a couple percentage points more of material efficiency, which ends up being one of the big costs. So the soda factory, that rig may even be removed at some point. Don't build there. Dunk's laboratory would be used for researching. The best place to research blueprints. So if you buy a blueprint original, then you need to make sure that it has high material efficiency and time efficiency before you're really going to be able to be profitable. So that's where you want to put it to research it. So that's kind of the super basic where to build things. Actually, let's go ahead and undock so I can see the rest of the structures. So part of where to build, you also need to know where to refine your material. So Dunk's Fine Refinery is the place that you're going to be refining, get basic ore refined. I would recommend using a refining service. There's some listed on the buyback program website. Al Hemer, if you contract him, or he'll do it for a 2% fee. There's a few other people that you might know that have really good skills. So if you're not buying minerals off the market, and you're buying ore, you want to have max skills to reprocess. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of money in that process. All right, so the Dunks Fine Refinery is the other big one that you need to know. So all this information is also captured in the wiki, which I'll link here. So this is the infrastructure list. So on the infrastructure list, showing on the video, at the very bottom, it says, what do you want to build? And it also tells you the information that I just did. And it actually has every system, every structure that Brave has. So if you wanted to do building an impasse, then it lists there too. So capitals are better to be built in different systems other than GE, if you want to get into that eventually. So fuel blocks are another good way to make money. So the Dunks workshop is the best place for that, I believe. All right, so I really like to use the industry tools. The two that I use the most are these two. These are doing your calculators. So the best thing you could do is do a spreadsheet for yourself, and we'll go over what you would be doing a spreadsheet of. But these have most of the calculations, but sometimes you have to check them or know what can go wrong with them. So we're going to build some Atrons today, and so I have materials and everything. So we'll go over how what you should check there. For what to build, so the doctrine stock page I linked here. So the buyback is one of the buyback services. They also have this. So if you go to the doctrine stock page, make sure that if you're in GE, if that's the market you're selling to, you have to click at the top right. You might have to sign into this website. It'll be on the video. Select the GE HAV faction fort. And then what you can do is you can say limit to missing. And anything that's T1, you would be able to build just with minerals. Well, unless it's a rig, and then rig manufacturing is kind of beyond the scope of this class where you need salvage. But and then if you want to do, a lot of people do T2 production, and so you might be able to sell some of those products on the market locally that they would buy to do T2 production. But like right now, bouncer ones are a drone. They're a little bit low on the market. Ospreys are low on the market, and actually we've been flying a lot of those, so that's something you could build. Procurers. So any T1 ship, if the ones that you see on dying a lot, those are the best ones to build. All right, so let's go ahead and dock up, and then I'll give everybody some minerals and a blueprint, and we'll actually build something. So we're going to be building some Atrons today, and I will buy them because I'm supplying all the minerals. I'll buy each one for 100,000 ISK. Just send them to the Brave Dojo in a contract, please. If you're on the video, sorry, this offer is only for class attendance. So go ahead and trade Jinx, please. I wasn't ready for that. All right, so I did not pair the Mexilon.
Do you need some?
No, I have it. I prepped for the class, but then I didn't get everybody ready. So I need 18,000 or 19,000. There we go. Sorry, this bit's going to take me a little bit. So I got these BPCs from the Brave BPC program. So I put a link in the MOTD, and you can request T1 BPCs from there for free. So that is a typical that's one cost that you don't have to pay if you build those. All right. Pretending you didn't have to give me 100,000 ISK, I'm going to give you 100,000 ISK for each Atron. You guys have any questions while I'm parsing these out?
Nope, not yet.
So I gave everybody an Atron blueprint. Anybody? Oh, Tyler. Thank you for this, Tyler.
No problem.
I got lucky. I guessed the exact number of people, so I had already pre-split all the trit. Okay, so now we're going to open up the Atron blueprint. You can double click it, or you can open the industry window and actually just drag it in. Sometimes the industry window is really laggy. Hopefully CCP will fix it at some point. We're in the Dojo chat channel, Nirvan. Okay, so if you have it open, I gave you enough minerals to make 10 Atrons, so you can change how many job runs you're doing by clicking the up and down arrows. One thing you'll notice is, oh, I might have actually, no, I have way more minerals, never mind. So one thing you can see on the left side, you can see how much materials that you have, and what this, and these, this particular blueprint, if you see the little jewel, has a material efficiency of 10%, so that's the best you can do. And then we're in Checkman's Pleasure Palace, which is the best in GE for material efficiency. So this is your major cost for manufacturing, is your materials, the minerals. So you always want to reduce these costs as far as possible. If you do, you can right click and you can actually buy all the minerals. I think you can say, yeah. So if you right click on the arrow next to all the minerals, you can say buy all, and you can look at the market. You actually have to change it to the soda factory on when you do buy all, it comes up with a pop-up. So right now you wouldn't be able to buy the Noxium that's required. So that would be an issue. So you'd have to either go mine it or source it from some other place. So it's a good, like I usually buy in bulk way ahead of time. And then as I burn down my minerals, you end up buying the ore that has more Noxium if that's what you need. If you have a lot of trit, or if you don't have a lot of trit, then you go buy more spotanium or feldspar. You're always kind of plugging the hole. The problem with buying these from the soda factory is sometimes it can be very expensive. So you should always check these prices against the tools. Like So Eve Brazel is a good place. Um, so Eve Brazel is a good place to check. You want to get as close as you can to like G to sell prices or even G to buy if you can get better. But in GE, titanium and Mexilon in particular are always going to be a little bit more expensive. So what you need to do is make sure you always pass those costs on to your customer. So that's why you need to be doing the spreadsheets or using the tools and modifying what the costs are. So because if you buy just whatever minerals there are and you start building, you'll actually lose money. So everyone's used to paying more. No one expects to buy ships or modules for Jita prices. So you can mark up modules, T1 modules. The markups can be pretty high. You know, you are selling to your friends. So decide on a okay, what it's worth for you to build it for. Like on a frigate, 100K ISK might be a good profit, or 150K ISK. I like to sell them under 500K ISK. Sometimes right now, I think they've been selling at 650K. So there's a lot of profit to be made. So one thing is when you do more job runs, so there's actually rounding that happens. So all these different percentages for material efficiency, it rounds up. So if you build more, so I can go all the way to 30, it'll round a little bit different than if I just build one at a time. So particularly for bigger builds and for modules where you're building a lot, you can get a little bit of extra efficiency by doing that, as opposed to just building them one at a time. So one of your other costs that you need to take into account, which for a frigate is not bad, is the total job cost. So that's over here in the right-hand corner of the industry window. So here you can see it depends on the system cost index, which depends on how much building is occurring in that system. So in some systems, GE actually has a lot of T1 manufacturing and T2, so 3.45 is a little bit high, but for our purposes, for T1, it's not a big deal. For capitals, they don't want to build when it's that high because it's going to cost many, many millions more just because of that system cost index. So you see the structure gives us a discount, and then there's a facility tax. So 70,000 ISK, it's not bad. The job duration, the duration depends on your skills. So you can see on the video that I have Industry 5 and Advanced Industry 5, which give bonuses. I have a 32% decrease in the job modifier. The blueprint itself has a 20% modifier, and the structural bonus does 15%. But all this is time. So it's just I could use this blueprint again or use my job slots faster than if you don't have these skills. But most T1 manufacturing, other than rigs and most ships and modules, only require Industry 1. So you don't need all these high skills. So I'm going to go ahead and press start. If you press stop, for some reason you're like, oh no, I didn't want to build that many, you will lose what you're trying to build. You'll lose all your minerals. So don't do that. Unless you usually have to. If you click over on your jobs window, the jobs tab, you can make sure it's on owned by me, all active jobs, all activities, and you can see your job status. You can see I'm building some drugs down here on the video. So where do we go from there? Does anyone have any questions on that part? Did everybody get the build going?
Yep, sounds good.
The video will be up on YouTube probably tomorrow, Nervin. Okay, so let's talk really quick about the different skills. So this is Jinx. This is my industrial character. So the different skills that matter. So for T1 manufacturing, industry and advanced industry are going to give you those time efficiencies. Some things you build will also have, you might have to have a certain level of industry before it lets you build it, but most T1 cruisers and modules, that's not true. Mass production is really good because it gives you more slots, and then you can build more things at once. Advanced mass production gives you even more slots. A lot of people stop at advanced mass production 4 just because getting that one extra slot for 37 days of training isn't really worth it. Root, I will trade you some if you didn't get them yet. I think I gave someone all my pyrite. Nope, there it is. Sorry. I was like, panic. All right, there we go. What's my favorite thing to build? So sometimes that's a little OPSEC, but I'm Jinx, and I build a lot of drugs. So I built the improved mind flood and improved Frentix. So you may see that referred to in Slack. I also like to do the T2 manufacturing. I do a lot of the small, like I was building a bomber, and I do some of the interceptors and things that sell pretty fast. So I usually like to do things that that turn over very quickly, and I try to build for cheaper than people can import. The most profitable thing for a new person to start manufacturing, I would say ships and modules probably are better than ships if you can identify which modules are being used. So there's not a lot of T1 that's being used. There's a lot of meta, which are only dropped from rats. So you want to find things that in our doctrines are commonly used that you can build. So it's a little, you have to do some market research. The doctrine stock page can help you do that. Drones are really good because people just leave drones. And rigs are good. If you salvage a lot, rigs are very good. But the other thing is make sure that you're not investing. So when you're buying your ore and then you're gonna build, say you're gonna build some industrial ships. So industrials sell pretty well, like epithals that get blown up when people are doing planetary interaction. If you build some epithals, make sure that you don't put all your ISK into them because they might take 2 weeks to sell, or it might take 3 months to sell. So you need to be prepared to not have access to that ISK for that amount of time.
So when these are finished, do they just show up in inventory?
So you actually have to go to the job slot, and there's a little arrow. The status will say deliver, and you hit the deliver button. I should have been like a cooking show and had one ready for you, but let's see. How long would it take me to build one Atron? Oh no, I gave out all my Zydrine. Does anyone have a lot of Zydrine?
Yeah, I was gonna talk to you about that. You gave me a ton.
Go ahead and trade me back. Thank you for your honesty.
I say you gave me like 70 mil worth of Hydrine. I was kind of questioning that.
So I'm not going to wait 46 minutes for the delivery for an extra Atron. We're talking about Zydrine, which is one of the minerals that's required for building T1 stuff. So Megasite for bigger ships other than the Atron, Megasite is another one. The things that are going to be, like I said, the things that are going to be expensive for you here in Catch or Mexilon and Tritanium, you should be able to get these for better than G to sell prices. So you might be able to balance, you might pay 105% G to sell or even worse for Mexilon and Tritanium, but you might be able to get the others for G to buy or better. So if you're doing a spreadsheet, you can know if you're going to be profitable at the end. Yes, and a brick.
Okay. On Dunk's workshop, it makes the distinguishment between deployable and drone. What is the difference between deployable and drone?
Deployable, I believe, is like a mobile depot, mobile tractor unit, whereas a
Okay.
drone is a drone. So in Slack, if you're not in Slack, you should be if you're interested in industry. So we have 2 channels that are really good. Indie Bros Public and Marketplace is where you can sell stuff and also get materials. And so industry, particularly just doing T1, it's difficult for it to be primary ISK. So, but it's a nice thing. Like I only can play a couple hours every other day, or probably play a little bit more than that. But it's something that when all my industry slots are being used, and I have lots of things on the market, it's making me ISK while I'm offline doing other things. And it feels really nice to come home and say, I'm going to build 10 Atrons and hit the button. So where to get supplies? So if you're just building, say you just want to start building your own frigates, then it's pretty easy to mine your own materials. Even like you could probably find in some of the moons, you could get some of the ore pretty easily. But once you get up to the cruiser level, it's really hard to mine your own materials, and then you need to start looking at sourcing, which you can either do on the market, which catch market is expensive, or you can go to Impasse, and you have to use something like a Kairos. That's something good to link. A Miasmos and a Kairos are both Galente industrial ships, and if you don't have Galente industrial trained, you're going to want to as an industrialist. Everybody just saw me misspelled the Cryos. Oh, thanks, Tyler. So the Cryos is a T1 ship that has a hull only for hauling minerals. So if you get Galente Industrial to like 4, then you get a mineral hold capacity of 43,000. For the Miasmos, if you get an ore hold capacity of 42,000. Be careful if you're going to go all the way to Impasse. This is good for just going between. So like if you refine your minerals in the Dunk's fine refinery, then you can move them in a Krios just across the Citadel grid in GE, and that's much easier, and you're going to have a bigger hull than if you try to do that like in any other ship. Miasmos is if you're buying or transporting it from where you mined it, then that's a good place to have. If you're taking gates in a Miasmos, it is a lot riskier, so you should be paying attention and intact catch and asking in comms, maybe actually ask somebody to scout for you. You can buying ore in Impasse once you get more ISK is a lot easier, but then it's risky to get it up to GE. So like minerals are more expensive in GE, but that's because you can get them, people have already transported them here. You can also buy compressed ore is the best way to transport it. You can buy compressed ore in HiSec and get it jump freighted down, but there's a big cost to that as well. So that's why the spreadsheets are important. I don't have a spreadsheet to give you, but concentrating on keeping those mineral costs as low as possible is how you're going to make more money. Particularly for T1, I would not try to sell at G to sell prices. If you look at the market, like let's look at Atron since that's what we're building. All right, so at the Atron market in GE, so we have a lot of Atrons. It's pretty expensive right now, like 618. So if some of you guys wanted to go sell them on market, that's fine. If I'd appreciate if you sold them back to the dojo for 100,000 a piece, since I supplied the minerals, but I gave them away. So whatever you want to do is fine. So there's profit to be made all the way down, probably to that 299. The guy's probably still making. He probably mines in a Rourke or something, got free cheap minerals. He's probably making a little bit of ISK. I would sell, when I used to make T1 frigates, I'd sell it like a 450K, but mineral prices go up and down, and you need to pay attention to that. If you have a little bit more money, the Caracal gets blown up a lot because that's like one of our main fleets. So that's one to look into. Like right now, 10 mil is the, I think we want to have like 50 Caracals on market, and right now there's only 30. So in one fleet, those could all disappear. And as you go up in ship size, it's harder and harder to source materials, but Hurricanes are very good. They get blown up a lot too in fun fleets. Maelstroms, we just lost a lot of Maelstroms, so if you have that much money, it's a lot of money to put in one ship. You know, they're 160 mil. So don't, if that's a significant fraction of your ISK, you don't want to tie it up. But like for me, I would build a few Maelstroms and put those on market and wait for them to sell. Once you're sourcing, you want your profits to be for ships. You probably want your profits to be 10% to 20%. For modules, you probably can get higher percentages on that. You can sell them for whatever you want. Try not to scam. Also, don't buy out like anything that's really cheap, maybe cheaper than what you're doing. Don't buy them out and then relist them for higher. That's the only rule. Cinderbrick. So I actually, yes, I think I hate moving my stuff around. So sometimes I'll give up like when I'm building frigates, I'm usually just doing it to fill a hole. And I'll usually give up some of the bonus just so I don't have to transport minerals to every location. I build mostly, I like ship holes just because I like the feeling of building a ship. So I built them in a lot of things in Braveport, just because I build cruisers and battle cruisers too. Nirvan for scouts, people in standing comms usually just say, I need a scout, or for fleets, they'll say I need a +1 or a scout, and then you can go scout. Any T1 frigate. Basically, you just need somebody on the other side of the gate. Like a lot of people with industry, and if you're big into industry, it's nice having multiple accounts. So I have one character who does only industry skills, and I have one character who does only PvP. So I can scout for myself, and a lot of people do that too. But an ET1 frigate, because you mostly just want to make sure that you're not going to jump into something bad. Well, that's 35 minutes. I'd like to answer some questions, go over my notes, make sure I don't have anything else. Anybody? So please feel free.
So you would say that the best place to get like mass amounts of materials would be the market? Are there any other services that might sell that kind of stuff?
So there's definitely, so the buyback has a the buyback does have a program where they sell some of the stuff they don't need, but I think they usually use most of their ore. But maybe sometimes I've seen that someone sells them a bunch of minerals in one of the moons in YHN, and they don't want to move it. So you might be able to buy, for G to sell, they might have some some minerals over there that you could buy and then move it, and that might be a lot cheaper that's on the market. Also ask, like a lot of times for small orders, people in Indie Bros will go ahead and sell that to you if it's not available on market. Like I'll probably go put some Noxium on market after, since I saw it's not available here.
How about like T2 building materials?
So that you either need to know people who do a lot of moon mining or bring it in from Jita. Kat, you asked about our other faction industrials just not as good. For the whole industrial chain, no, they're not as good. There's for T2 and for some other purposes, they've got some special things, but in terms of going from ore to ships, then the Galente has the best.
I have a question.
Yep.
You mentioned the idea of taking ore and using either one of our outside processes or within the corporation to get those processed into the materials that we need. And it kind of sounded like you were recommending that over just buying the minerals outright.
It depends. So if you can get them, if you're going to pass, like if you're going to sell Atrons for 600k ISK, then you probably can buy them off the market and you'll be fine. You can still get 10%, 15%. I haven't run the numbers on there. So as long as you know that you can compete in the market with those mineral prices, then it's fine.
Do you have any resources as far as what ore works best for what material?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll take a minute to find it. It's on Fuzzworks.
Yeah, I saw Celeste, but it kind of it almost looks like no, it does kind of give the amount per. Never mind. Gives kind of like a menu, a smorgasbord of all the different ores, rather than kind of pointing out which one's best.
Okay, I just linked Fuzzworks. So Fuzzworks actually has some really good tools too. Nirvan, so that's what spreadsheets are for. You can actually, Eve, and I don't do this myself. So Eve has ways that you can pull the information. It has APIs that you can pull, and it'll actually tell you the overhead prices of everything. So you can have a spreadsheet that will auto update. But for me, I always try to get my minerals around you to sell, and I have I get them as cheap as possible, and then assume that I bought them at you to sell, and make sure my markup is high enough to cover the G to sell price. So Cinebreak, that compression calculator, let me pop over on scene 2. So the compression calculator is a little finicky. If you open it up, for ore restrictions, you almost always want to have that on nullsec only, because that's the only thing that people are really mining around here. But you can copy in what you need here. So if you need, the problem is it's a little finicky and you have to get to know it. If you need a lot of tritanium, just say you've ran out, and you say that, so I said I wanted 10 million tritanium. So it's told me to buy compressed crocite and compressed dark ochre. But then I'm going to end up with 360,000 extra Noxium. So if I already have too much Noxium, you want to limit that. You want to say, oh, maximum extra back on the first page, say 0. What? 0 extra maximum of Noxium. So now they suggested that I buy compressed Arcanor, and I'm going to have a bunch of extra Mexilon and Megasite. So if I'm okay with that, then that's what I want to go to. It works a little bit better when you need a mix of materials, like if you're building a whole ship. But if you have one hull, and you end up knowing it pretty easily. Most people buy tritanium from spodumene, and that's why pyrite prices are so cheap in GE. It's because everyone has too much extra pyrite.
Where do you actually purchase blueprints, or you can copy blueprints also?
So if I didn't link it, make sure, so particularly when you're first starting, or if you're going to build something unusual even later, it doesn't have like Enumero requirements, use the BPC program. It is people doing a service job, so it's going to take a few days, but we have lots of free BPCs, and that's going to be the cheapest thing to do. If you need something that's not there, and you want to have your own BPO so you can build Infinite, well, you have to import them from HiSec.
From Jita.
There's actually some of them are sold to NPC stations, which would be a little bit cheaper than Jita.
Okay.
But you can also in Jita, if you didn't want to, it's always cheapest to research, but like a cruiser takes a month and a half or 2 months with good skills to get to perfect research. So Spotomain is the, let me link you some. Let me link you some ores.
Oh, gotcha.
I've seen all these tools, and now I can't find the one I want. Here we go. So this one that I just linked has each kind of basic ore, and it'll tell you which one. The green has the green slot tells you what it's best with, what that ore has the most of. Actually, the green is the one that has the highest per M3, I think. Anyway, so Spotomain has a lot. These are uncompressed values. So Veldspar is all trit, but it is only mined in HiSec. And it's not really worth mining, because if you look at ISK per M3 or if you look at ISK per M3, then it's best to mine Arcanor. Or actually nice is a lot of times true. So ISK each, that's the one you want to look at. So Spotomain, so Spotomain's right way up right now. So Spotomain, Arcanor, Croci, Bistod, so it's the ABCs. So those have kind of the most valuable stuff inside of it. But this is an industry class, not a mining class.
That's pretty related.
So we're at 45 minutes. I usually try to cut it off around now. Anybody have any other questions? All right, I appreciate it. This was off the cuff, so it took me a little while to get started, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.